Hieroglyphics was one of the ancient writing systems in Egypt, but as Egypt declined in 30 BCE, so did the use of this language. Hieroglyphics was soon forgotten for 1,400 years, and it wasn't until the Rosetta Stone, holding 3 different languages, was found that clues began to appear. The Rosetta Stone was found on July 19, 1799, by the soldiers of Napoleon. It took 20 years to decipher it, with multiple experts and scholars. With the help of French and English scholars, Thomas Young and Jean-Francois Champollion, the Rosetta Stone became the key to deciphering Egyptian hieroglyphics. The stone was able to help fill in a large gap of history that could have remained undiscovered and missing forever. Through the Rosetta Stone, scholars could fill in the gaps of knowledge held by ancient Egyptians. Today, we have a greater understanding of Egyptian history, and the Rosetta Stone has forever changed our comprehension of life in ancient Egypt.
Chapter 1. The History of Hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics started to die out when Egypt got conquered by the Persians in 525 BC, followed by the Macedonian Greeks later in 332 BC. Following Alexander the Great, who led the Macedonian Greeks for 300 years, Egypt was ruled under the leadership of a great Ptolemaic dynasty after the death of Cleopatra VII in 30 BC. The Greek Ptolemaic dynasty was marking the final end of the use of hieroglyphics because the family was not Egyptian as they were Macedonian Greek. Ptolemy was one of Alexander's most trusted generals, and as he won control over Egypt, he declared himself king. Finally, Egypt's last pharaoh, Cleopatra VII, lost to Rome, and the Romans took over Egypt in 30 BCE. The apparent last known use of hieroglyphics was in 394 CE, known as the Graffito of Esmet-Akahom, written in Philae, which can be seen in the Temple of Isis in southern Egypt. During the Roman period, the cultures of Greece and Romans greatly influenced Egypt. By the 4th century AD, Christianity and Coptic Christians began to control Egypt as Romans prevented priests who knew hieroglyphics from engaging in temples, and many Egyptian temples, like the Temple of Isis at Philae, were converted to Coptic churches. Coptic is an alphabetic language similar to Greek and Latin, composed in the late 1st century AD.
Chapter 2. The Discovery of the Rosetta Stone. The Rosetta Stone was discovered in July 1799 when Napoleon and his soldiers were rebuilding an old fort in Rashid in the Nile Delta. They were digging up foundations when the officer in charge, Père François Bouchard, saw the stone built into an old wall. He knew the importance because it contained fragments of passages written in 3 different scripts: Greek, Egyptian hieroglyphics, and Egyptian Demotic. Also, Napoleon gave specific orders to his men to look for cultural artifacts. The stone was then sent to the savants in Cairo. Napoleon returned from Egypt and assured the National Institute, a special group of scientists and scholars, that the hieroglyphics had the same messages as the other 2 languages. Copies of the stone were made and sent to Paris. Napoleon's defeat against the British led to the stone being captured from the French. The stone and many other antiques became the British's property under the Terms of Alexandria in 1801. Then, in February 1802, the Rosetta Stone was shipped to London and arrived in Portsmouth. Although the Rosetta Stone was essential to hieroglyphics, it didn't hold the utmost importance when it comes to relevance and knowledge in the Egyptian history. The Rosetta Stone is a propaganda describing Ptolemy V Epiphanes, the king of Egypt during the Greek Ptolemaic dynasty. It talks about the many deeds Ptolemy V has done and asks the priesthood to serve him equal to a god. The stone was a decree issued at Memphis, the main city of Egypt, during the anniversary of his coronation ceremony. The Rosetta Stone was one of the copies supposedly placed in all temples in Egypt, and was only a portion of the decrees.
Chapter 3. Decoding of the Rosetta Stone. After defeating the French, British soldiers took the Rosetta Stone in 1801. When it was shipped to England in 1802, it sparked interest in the entire world. Several casts and duplicates were made so that researchers all around the world could try to decode the text. Luckily, the inscription on the bottom was Greek, which was the easiest step and what led to the decoding of hieroglyphics. The Greek revealed that the text was about an Egyptian decree praising the 2nd century BC boy king Ptolemy Epiphanes. The next language was Demotic, which had a relatively similar script on it, but when it came to hieroglyphics, linguists didn't know where to start. Fully grasping hieroglyphics could take up to 20 years. Thomas Young was a British polymath who prior to his discovery studied medicine, mathematics, and science. With a copy of the stone, Young decided to play with the stone's inscriptions. Previous scholars, Sylvestre de Stacy and Johann David Ackerblad, had already identified names and discovered the phonic parts of hieroglyphics. Thomas Young mainly worked on the Rosetta Stone's cartouches, which contained certain groupings of hieroglyphics in an oval. He was able to find that the cartouches were used to represent names of royalty. He figured out that Ptolemy from the Greek words matched up to a certain cartouche in the hieroglyphics text. While Young was able to prove that Demotic was a mixture of symbols and phonics, he believed that hieroglyphics were purely symbolic, similar to other scholars.
It wasn't until Jean-Francois Champollion settled in Paris and decided to pursue decoding the Rosetta Stone that the true picture, represented by hieroglyphics, truly came to light. Champollion was born on December 23, 1790, in Figeac, France. Excelling in literacy skills, Champollion taught himself how to read and write, and by the age of 10 was able to recite long passages from Homer and Virgil by heart, in original Greek as well as in Latin. Champollion moved to Paris, France in 1807 and started to pursue his personal interest in decoding the Rosetta Stone when he was 30. From 1821 to 1824, Champollion dedicated himself fully to ancient Egypt. While there is no concrete source of Champollion's process, his decipherment is best thought of as several phases. During the first phase, from April 1821 to September 1822, Champollion thought that hieroglyphics were all symbols, similar to Thomas Young. From September 1822 to April 1823, Champollion began to change his ideas dramatically. Champollion was able to cross-reference certain names in the cartouches to the other areas of the Rosetta Stone.
The 30-year-old scholar was able to decipher the known names of Ramesses and Thothmes. During the final stage, April 1823 to early 1824, Champollion was able to work rigorously among the hieroglyphics, finding phonic values, partial phonics, and hundreds of symbolic signs.
Supposedly, on the 14th of September 1822, Champollion Jean-François goes round his brother in the Institut de France, slaps the papers at noon on his desk. He says, Je tiens mon affaire, I've done it, eureka.
Many disagreements rose regarding whether Young's work truly influenced Champollion's or if Young deserved credit for the first phase.
Chapter 4. Conclusion. The Rosetta Stone was just a slab of stone found by some soldiers. But today, the Rosetta Stone is known for its importance in the deciphering of a lost language. Even now, the smallest clues and constant hard work could help us unravel the existing holes in this period of history. The Rosetta Stone held the key to deciphering the communication and inscriptions of the ancient Egyptians. The Rosetta Stone has been able to link and uncover a long-lost language, and we're able to look more deeply into the rich culture and history of the ancient Egyptians. The Rosetta Stone and the persistence of Champollion shows that passion and hard work can open up the riches of the past to benefit the new world for years to come.